In the quiet suburb of Mount Washington, Kentucky, there lived a young girl named Louise Ogborn. She was only 18 years old, full of dreams and hopes for the future. She worked at a local McDonald's like many others, trying to earn a living and enjoy her teenage years. But one afternoon in April 2004, her life changed dramatically in a way no one could have imagined. This is her story. Louise was a bright and lively girl with a character that attracted attention. Her life, like many others in her community, revolved around school, friends, and of course her job at the fast food restaurant. It was a job that, although not her dream, allowed her to earn some money. But on that day, while serving burgers and fries, Louise had no idea she was about to find herself at the center of a nightmare. It was April 9th, 2004, and Louise was at work when a man, pretending to be a security officer, called McDonald's. He spoke with authority and conviction, giving orders to the restaurant manager. The man claimed that Louise had stolen a certain amount of money and needed to be interrogated. The voice on the phone was loud and convincing, so much so that the manager, surprised and frightened, decided to follow the mysterious caller's instructions. Louise, unaware of the injustice she was about to suffer, was taken to a separate area of the restaurant. The next 3 hours, which would mark a point of no return in her life, were filled with unimaginable terror. On April 9th, 2004, Louise Ogborn went to work like any other day, unaware that she was about to face one of the most traumatic experiences of her life. Sunlight filtered through the windows of the McDonald's restaurant, and the smell of fried food filled the air. Customers came and went, while Louise served burgers and fries with a smile, following her usual routine. But everything changed when a mysterious phone call rang. On the other end of the line, a man spoke with authority. He claimed to be a security officer and, using a firm tone, communicated with the restaurant manager. "I need to speak with someone about a theft. A report has been made about an employee who took merchandise without paying," the man said, his name and identity remaining in the dark. Although his role was entirely false, his voice was convincing enough to immediately capture the manager's attention. At that moment, neither the manager nor Louise could have imagined the ordeal that would follow. Under pressure and in fear of losing his job, the manager was persuaded by the instructions from the other end of the phone. "Keep her there. It's imperative that you interrogate her," the man said, reaching a conclusion that would ruin Louise's entire day. Louise was quickly separated from her colleagues and taken to an area of the restaurant. The atmosphere became tense, shrouded in fear and the unknown. When the manager told her she had to be interrogated, Louise felt a wave of confusion and panic. "What did I do?" she asked, wondering if it was some kind of prank. Her requests for clarification were ignored, while the manager, visibly shaken, followed the instructions on the phone. He felt overwhelmed and unable to oppose this authority. Louise, her legs trembling and her heart racing, realized that she was about to be involved in something far more serious than a simple mistake. The next 3 hours passed like torture. Divided between order and chaos, despair and confusion, every minute felt like an eternity. Louise was forced to strip, humiliated and vulnerable. The instructions from the man on the phone seemed endless. "Check if she has anything on her," the man ordered, and the manager felt obligated to comply, pushing Louise into a situation of complete helplessness. The atmosphere was charged with fear and helplessness. Louise looked around, searching for help, but her colleagues, unable to believe what was happening, were frozen in a mix of disbelief and confusion. No one seemed to know how to act. Some tried to intervene, but they were stopped by the manager, who kept insisting that they had to follow the instructions. Every order that came to the manager was laced with fear. The authority of the fake officer seemed undeniable. Louise, in the depths of her desperation, whispered to those around her, asking for help, "Please get me out of here." But her words, full of anguish and terror, seemed to disappear into nothing. The atmosphere quickly transformed into one of terror. There was no break from the torment. Every second seemed to weigh heavily on her soul. Louise felt her physical and mental well-being slipping away, trapped in a situation that seemed to have no way out. Her mind was crumbling as she tried to stay focused and find a way to escape from this nightmare. The pressure increased as the man on the phone continued to exert his control, reciting a script of power and intimidation. The cries of so many similar situations echoed in Louise's mind, like a tragic symphony carrying the weight of countless silent abuses that had occurred in other workplaces. None of the employees dared to oppose. The fear of losing their job and the consequences of defying the orders felt like a heavy burden. After more than 2 hours of excruciating agony, the situation seemed unstoppable. But at this critical moment, another employee, horrified by the humiliation Louise was suffering, decided not to remain silent. Anxiety and concern had pushed her beyond her limits. She realized it was time to intervene. Summoning courage, she approached the manager. "We can't keep doing this," she exclaimed, trying to bring a bit of humanity into that inhuman situation. The colleague, driven by instinct, took a step back, aware of the risk of speaking up, but knowing that Louise's safety was the priority. She asked to contact the police, insisting that something was terribly wrong. It was then that hope began to reappear. With her heart in her throat, the colleague picked up the phone and dialed the emergency number. "There's a girl here who needs help. I don't know what's happening, but something terrible is going on at McDonald's," she said, her words coming out urgently. Her call finally reached the right ears. The police were sent immediately to the restaurant, and as the sirens drew closer, a sense of relief began to seep into the stagnant air. Louise, still feeling trapped, sensed that the situation was changing. The horrific nightmare that had forced her to endure humiliation was about to end. When law enforcement arrived, they found a McDonald's that appeared normal, but was infused with tension and fear. The police entered and were met with an immediate atmosphere of confusion. Louise, visibly shaken and traumatized, was huddled in a corner, her eyes wide with fear and her face pale. The authorities approached her gently, asking what had happened. "They forced me. I suffered. I didn't do it," Louise stammered, emotion breaking her voice. Each word was filled with pain and vulnerability. The authorities listened carefully, taking note of the gravity of the situation. The nightmare was finally coming to an end. The light of justice was beginning to pierce the darkness in which she had been trapped. The police then launched an investigation. What had started as a suspected theft had turned into a terrible aberration. They uncovered the disturbing truth about the man who had called, a fraudster who had operated undisturbed, exploiting human vulnerability and the inefficiency of security protocols. The mistake of trusting an authoritative figure without any verification had led to a serious violation of Louise's rights. The police gathered testimony from the employees who had been present that day, the words of witnesses who had helplessly watched Louise's ordeal. The incident quickly became a source of national outrage. It wasn't just the story of a young victim, it was also the story of an unjustifiable systemic failure. That night, April 9th, 2004, Louise Ogborn, a young woman full of life, returned home not as the person who had entered McDonald's. The trauma from those 3 hours would forever be etched in her memory. But along with the pain, a new awareness was born. Even in the darkest of nights, there is always a chance for hope and the ability to fight for truth and justice. Louise's life, scarred by violence and humiliation, was transforming into a story of resilience and determination. After Louise's release, the media began to follow the story increasingly, shedding light not only on her personal case, but also on broader issues related to worker safety. The case sparked a wide discussion about how businesses manage power and trust, and the need for stronger protocols to protect employees from abuse. Louise became a symbolic figure in the fight for workers' rights, highlighting the importance of a safe and respectful workplace. Her traumatic experience became a catalyst for change, drawing attention to a problem that had often remained in the shadows. With the support of her friends and family, Louise began a long journey of healing. The trauma she endured from that horrific experience did not disappear easily. Anxiety and fear accompanied her in the following days, but she committed herself to telling her story. Civil disobedience and exposing abuse became her mantra. During one of her first public appearances, Louise shared, I don't want other people to go through what I went through. We need to speak up, we need to resist, and we need to fight together." Her words rang loud and clear, instilling hope and inspiration in those who heard her. Louise Ogborn's case turned into a lawsuit against McDonald's and the local franchise. When the lawsuit was filed, the trial revealed huge gaps in security procedures and the vulnerability of employees. Every hearing was a painful revisit of the moments of terror, but each step forward in the legal system also represented a step toward justice. The media attention on the case also led to a deeper examination of corporate policies regarding how incidents like this were handled. The testimony of those present at McDonald's who had witnessed what happened to Louise was crucial. It was the voices of those who had remained silent that finally found the courage to tell the truth. After years of legal battles and an intense trial, the jury ruled in Louise's favor, awarding her a record settlement of $6.1 million. When the verdict was announced, a sense of liberation and justice filled the air. In that moment, Louise felt an enormous weight lift from her shoulders. It wasn't just a personal victory, it was a victory for all victims of abuse who had suffered in silence. Her testimony had brought justice not only for herself, but for all those who feel powerless and invisible. She had shown that truth can triumph over lies and that every voice matters, even when it seems the world is indifferent. Louise Ogborn's journey continues to inspire and encourage a new generation to fight for workers' rights, to never stay silent, and to remember that every individual deserves respect and dignity. The 3 hours of terror she endured did not define her. Instead, they made her a symbol of courage and hope. As Louise looks to the future, she knows there will still be challenges to face, but she is ready to fight for a better world. Her story is a powerful reminder that justice can and must prevail. Even in the darkest moments, there is always a chance for light. It's just a matter of being willing to seek it and fight for it. Louise Ogborn turned injustice into activism, and her impact is set to endure, bringing much-needed attention to issues of safety, responsibility, and respect in the workplace. Her life, marked by a traumatic event, has transformed into a beacon of hope for many, showing that even the most painful experiences can lead to positive change. Recognizing the power of collective action, Louise has collaborated with organizations dedicated to workers' rights and social justice, continuing to raise awareness on critical issues that are often overlooked. With every speech, interview, and campaign, her voice has become a powerful advocacy tool, encouraging others to stand up for their rights and demand justice. Encouraging listeners to remain vigilant and attentive, Louise has made it clear that no one should feel powerless, and that every individual has the important responsibility of protecting themselves and others. Her story is not just a testament to resilience, but also a call to action. The fight for dignity and safety is never over. It requires attention, dialogue, and above all, courage. Over time, Louise has become an icon, not only in her home state, but across the country. Her ability to reclaim the space that was denied her has paved the way for a growing movement of solidarity among victims of abuse in all forms. And as she looks ahead to a future full of opportunities and new challenges, Louise knows that her journey is just beginning. Her determination to continue fighting for a safer workplace for all will face any obstacle. Ultimately, the story of Louise Ogborn is a powerful reminder that every voice counts, and that even a single act of courage can have incalculable repercussions. Louise's fight is not just personal. It is a collective battle for human dignity and fundamental rights, a statement that justice can triumph, wounds can heal, and together we can build a better world.